Hello, my name is Ivan Liviano, and I will be going over a demonstration of two analysis tools found on Docsteach, and I will be giving an explanation of how two different tools will be helping students analyze and evaluate sources for the purpose of constructing an authentic narrative of history. So jumping right into the mapping history, analyzing Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter, starting this activity um, will allow us to see how this tool, mapping history, relates to the historical era, the contemporary United States from 1968 to the present. And the primary historical thinking skill is historical analysis and interpretation, with the analyzing part of Bloom's taxonomy. Before we get into it, the synopsis for this activity states here that students will analyze the location of the president, why he went to the location, and what the ramifications were after he returned. The author's notes, as you can see here, pictures on the map, note locations that former President Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter visited. He wants students to research the travel, compose a theory for why the president was in that location, with whom and why. Finally, conclude what the benefits for such travels were to the United States and, if relevant, the world. These are the documents in the activity. The activity itself starts off with an introduction here. As you can see, mapping history, analyzing Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter. Starting the activity after you go through this introductory, you see here the actual map and the images here, the primary source images, getting into the first one here of Ronald Reagan depicts a photograph of President Reagan meeting with the press after signing the tax reconciliation bill in Rancho del Cielo. The next one here with President Jimmy Carter, the details of him with Omar Torrijos signing the Panama Canal Treaty. The next one here with Ronald Reagan working at his Oval Office desk. The next one here with President Jimmy Carter and Rosalind Carter visiting one of the locks along the Panama Canal. We have here President Ronald Reagan again having tea with Prince Charles and Princess Diana in the White House residence. The next one here, photograph of President Ronald Reagan and Miss Nancy Reagan walking together at the Palmetto residence in Geneva, Switzerland. The Reagans abroad. The date of this is November 17, 1985, capturing President Ronald Reagan and First Lady Nancy in Geneva, Switzerland. They had traveled to Geneva for summit meetings with the Soviet Union. And last but not least, we have President Jimmy Carter here with Deng Xiaoping, Rosalind Carter, and Madame Zulin when they stopped for a formal pose on their way to the state dinner for the Vice Premier of China. A brief description here is in 1949 the Communist Party seized power in China, and in response the United States severed diplomatic relations. 30 years later, the United States resumed diplomatic relations with China, and this 1979 photograph shows President Jimmy Carter in a formal public ceremony greeting Vice Premier Deng Xiaoping. It was the first time a communist Chinese leader had visited the United States. As you can see here, this is the perfect description of being able to see Docsteach, and it allows students to engage in a different type of venue. And Docsteach allows students to see that documents and archives, and in this case images, are not just pieces of paper. They can be photographs, as in this case, they can be movies, they can be sounds, they can be recordings, and maps as well.